Let me see here. We're just setting everything up. And I'll put the phone kind of back there once I get Mindy on here. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Know it's late for a lot of you. I feel like it's late here. It's already 9:30 and let's see, and 10:30 on the East Coast. Mindy's joining us. It's 8:30 her time. Mindy, if you're on here, just go ahead and just go ahead. Hey guys, go ahead and just send a little request to join. I think you can do that. If you don't, in a minute I'll try to add you. But today we are having Mindy on. She is the mother to Tessa. Her page is the Guymon tribe, not the. And her daughter has Down syndrome. She's really close to Treg's age. I'll have to ask her exact age. I just know that they're close. And we've been friends for, gosh, I don't even know. She'll have to tell me, but maybe since I made Treg's page, we've been connected for a really long time. And so it's been really incredible to see her journey and what a strong family she is. And you guys, Tessa is 3. Perfect. So she's just a little bit older than Treg. So I'm really excited for her to share her story with you guys. Let me go ahead and add her because I did see that she got on here. So we'll just go ahead and add. Hopefully it says it's waiting for you. So hopefully you see that I'm trying to add you. Hi. Okay, that worked. Oh, guys, it worked. First time. That's great news. Okay, I'm just going to set you up here. Guys, it's so funny. Like I said, I've been following Minnie for, I don't know, for forever, basically since oh, of course my phone fell down. I'm trying to pop it correctly. But basically, since I can remember, I don't know, it's been years, right?
Same, yeah.
First time that we're actually talking through Facebook.
Yeah.
We talk about, like, I don't know, pretty much in our group almost every day, but
Yeah, it's true.
To face. So yay, I'm so excited. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Did you get the kids down for bed? I know it's like kind of earlier there, and you have the kids that are a little bit older, so
yes. The husband, he helped get all the kids down, and he's holding the baby. So hopefully they'll stay quiet.
Watched your story, and at first I was like, playing with the doll with Tessa. She just like baby is just so perfect, and oh my goodness. So
she loves him so much. It's so fun to see her be a big sister, and the love like that she has for him. It's so fun.
So we're gonna jump right in. This is Mindy. Hi. I wanted to go ahead and tell everyone your Instagram handle in case they aren't following you. It's Guymon tribe, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Guymon tribe.
In the comments below, please do. So I just want to go ahead and jump right in. We're already kind of talking about your family. How many kids do you have?
So we have 5 kids. We have our oldest is 9, and we have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and then a 4-week-old.
So exciting. And then, of course, you're married. How long have you been married for?
So we've been married for about 11 years.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a circus at home, but it's the best kind of chaos. Oh, so we actually met country dancing on our college campus. My husband was they were doing a contest that night to see who could dress the most ridiculously. And he was wearing plaid shorts with cowboy boots. And yeah, he looked pretty ridiculous, but somehow still it worked for me. So
Still cute. So Tessa has Down syndrome. How old is she? Someone said 3. I know she's really close in age to Treg.
Yeah, so she turned 3 in July.
Okay, yeah, they are really close. And how did you find out that she would have Down syndrome? Or that?
So we didn't do any of the prenatal testing. We just kind of figured if that was the case, we would kind of um, figure out how to deal with things if things came. And she was born emergency C-section.
Okay.
When we got to the hospital, her foot was already on its way out, so she was breech. Yeah.
She was ready
So
for her period.
she was ready to come out feet first, and so we had to do the emergency C-section. And it was a new experience for me. I hadn't had a C-section before. So after we had her, it was interesting. The room was silent. Like it was so quiet. And I'm used to the nurses and the doctor saying, "Congratulations. Oh, look, this is how much she weighs. This is what she looks," and they usually show them to me.
3 kids, right?
Yes. Yes, so we'd already had 3 kids, and they didn't lift her up for me to see her or anything, and so they took her and got her cleaned up and wrapped up and gave her to my husband, and I just kept asking, "What does she look like? What does she look like?" Because I was so curious. I was still getting stitched up, and he said, "Well, she doesn't look like our other kids," and he said she kind of looks like she has Down syndrome, and I just kind of didn't think anything of it. I thought he was just, I thought, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. And I finally got to hold her, and
I think, oh, does she?
yeah,
I thought it was like a comment that he made.
yeah,
Okay.
it didn't really, like, I didn't take it seriously. I just kind of thought, oh, okay. And then I finally got to hold her when we were in the recovery room, and I looked down at her and I said, "Okay, Rick, you know what? She does kind of look like she has Down syndrome." And the nurse in the room turned to us and she said, "Who said something to you guys?" And we were like, "Oh my goodness. Wow." So that's that's how we found out. The nurse said, "Well, we legally they can't diagnose, have any kind of diagnosis. They have to wait for the pediatrician."
Mark, right? They
Yes.
have the blood work before they can diagnose, right?
Yeah, and the nurses can't really say anything in case that's not the case.
Okay.
And so she said, but because we said something, because we had already noticed something, she said, well, she does have.
We'll wait for the parents to take charge before, if they haven't gotten blood results back, correct? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
And then we are talking today because it is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And Tessa has cancer. She
Yeah.
has leukemia, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about her diagnosis story as far as with cancer and how you guys became aware that she had cancer?
Yeah. So when she was born, I didn't know a whole lot about Down syndrome.
Right.
And so we went to Google to find out kind of what we would possibly be facing. And so my husband was reading off a list of potential health concerns, and he said leukemia. And it's so strange, but the minute that he said that to me, she was maybe 3 days old, I said, "That's it. That's what we're going to be dealing with. I feel strongly that she's going to have that." And which sounds crazy. And I thought I was crazy for thinking that. But ever since that day, it was definitely something that was heavy on my mind. So I was watching it very closely with her, and I tried to educate myself on kind of what to look for. And then, so we tried to keep her healthy. Her immune system was not super strong just because of the Down syndrome. And she got a virus in December of 2017, I think it was, and got really sick, and it caused an ear infection. And so we took her into the pediatrician. And
her virus, was it RSV or just like a cold or?
just kind of like the common cold,
Okay.
but it really hit her hard and caused an ear infection. And so we started the antibiotics, and it took a really long time for them to start working. And so we were like, okay, I didn't know if it was just her. I like you said, we had three other kids before that, and my second daughter had a lot of ear infections, and so I was pretty familiar with how that all worked. Usually it took a day or two for the antibiotics to kick in.
Right.
But it just wasn't working. She was still really, really sick. And finally, a few days, like maybe 4 or 5 days later, she started getting better. And then she was good for a couple days, and then she got sick again. And so we took her back to the doctor. And it was basically a month, 2 months of just constantly bringing her into the doctor for ear infections or fevers, and we just kind of didn't know what was going on.
Right. She was
But
constantly sick and then susceptible to anything around her. Interesting. Okay.
yes, and we had been watching her blood counts because we had gotten her CBC done at a year, with
Your annual. Right.
yeah, and at her annual, the first time was in August.
Uh-huh.
Her white cell count was pretty low, but she had had a fever a couple days before, so we thought maybe it's just the virus that's causing, her white cell count.
Completely alarmed. And then she started getting really sick in December, where she was getting lots of colds. Is that what you said? So about 6 months later. So
Uh,
did you have any other like complete blood counts, anything like that?
yeah, so we did the one and it was kind of low, so our pediatrician said, let's do another one next month and see how it goes. And so we took her in for another CBC, and the counts had gone up.
Oh.
Her white cell count had gone up, and the nurse called me and she said, well, her numbers are going up, so everything's looking fine. And
Right.
when I looked up, I said, well, what were her counts? And normal white cell count is from about 5 to 10.
Okay.
And so she was at a 4.9. So she was right underneath borderline. And it had gone up from like a 2.2 from the month before.
Okay.
But I did not feel comfortable with it. And I told my pediatrician, I was like, it's still at the bottom of what it should be. So I would love to do another CBC. And so he said, let's wait until she's totally healthy, doesn't have any viruses. And then at that point, she had gotten sick in December and never had gotten well enough for me to take her back for a CBC. And so finally on Valentine's Day, she was turning really pale, everything like no color in her skin at all. And she was really lethargic. And, the doctors had chalked it up to teething or different viruses and different things like that. And I finally took her in on Valentine's Day and I said, we've got to figure out what's going on. She's not well enough for a CBC, but we have to figure out what's going on. So he agreed, and we took her to the hospital, got her blood drawn, and usually takes like 24 to 48 hours for them to call afterward. But the doctor called me a few hours later, and he said her counts are really low. We think it's probably leukemia, so you need to go to the hospital right now. So it's crazy.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I remember you posting about that just barely last Valentine's Day, that it's like the anniversary, and so now Valentine's Day kind of has that, like, I don't know, shadow over it of Tessa's diagnosis story. Leukemia is a cancer in the blood then. Can you tell us kind of more about that? And also, because she has Down syndrome, she is more likely to have leukemia than the typical child, correct?
Yes, kids with Down syndrome are 20 to 30 times more likely to get leukemia.
That's even higher than they actually thought it was. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty high. I mean, all things considered, you know, when you say 2 to 3%, it doesn't sound like that much, but um, yeah, it's unfortunate that, you know, these kids have to deal with that, but it is the reality.
So signs that obviously you were the one that really kind of caught that Tessa had cancer because your doctors weren't really as concerned. They thought she was teething. So what signs would you tell another parent to kind of look out for or symptoms that you were?
Yeah, so like you said, leukemia is a cancer of the blood, and so they're, you know, when they look in the CBC, they're looking for three different things: the white cell count, the red cell count, the platelet count. And so if you have leukemia, if a child has leukemia, all of the good cells, the white cells, red cells, and platelets, get taken up by the cancer cells. So the blasts will take over the good cells, and the symptoms that come with that, like if they're low on platelets, they'll have a rash that's called petechiae, and that is basically it looks like a rash, but it's not raised. It's more of like a bruised kind of rash with little dots.
Okay, it kind of look. Is it like when like a kid cries too hard and they get those kind of like broken blood vessel type of splotches? Is that kind of what it looks like?
Yeah, it just kind of looks like broken blood vessels underneath the skin. Um, so but a good way to distinguish is if it's not raised.
Okay.
So it would be flat. Um, and yeah, Tessa would get that if she was low on platelets. So I could always tell if she was low on platelets.
Okay.
And then her pale skin was another indicator for us, and that's because she didn't have any red cells to give the oxygen.
Interesting. And so before her it's white blood cell count, correct? Was
Uh-huh.
before all that, did she have like a normal color to her skin and you just noticed her getting paler and paler? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So she had color in her skin before that, even just a few months earlier. But as it got closer to Valentine's Day, it just was becoming more and more apparent. And um, it was one of those things I couldn't tell if it was just in my mind because I knew I was so worried about it that I didn't know, you know, you can like, as a mother, kind of make up things in your mind. And so I asked like everybody we were around, is she really as pale as I think she is? Because it just, you know, it was the middle of winter as well. So
Right.
I hadn't gotten a lot of sun. It was hard to know. But yeah, the pale skin was definitely like the telltale for us.
Right. Plus her being sick so frequently. Um, so you were the one that the call from your doctor of the CBC that you had on Valentine's Day, correct?
Yeah.
How did you tell your husband and also your other children?
Oh man.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I know. I've just been like, okay, hope I can keep it together. It was pretty traumatic. It was Valentine's Day, like I said, so I had been so concerned about it that we decided, you know, the other times we had gotten the CBC, I was so devastated. I cried all day long, so nervous about the results. And so this time we said, we're going to go out and have fun and try to forget that this is what we're waiting on.
Bit off your mind.
Yes. And so when my husband actually answered my phone and the doctor asked for me. And so he gave it to me. We were shopping. We were at an outlet store and he told me the news and I lost it. Like, you know, in movies you watch and you see these reactions that people have and you think that's so dramatized, but that's exactly, I fell to the floor and I was just sobbing and it was like my, you know.
That's your whole world. Yeah, your babies are your world, and if you would literally do anything for them, so I can't imagine. So you're in the store, your husband and your kids are with you and you're crying, so they knew instantly then.
Well, my husband was kind of, I mean, I think he was suspecting, but he was kind of like, what is going on?
Right.
He had to usher me out the store because I like literally could not get up. I didn't know. I was so paralyzed by that news that and I'm sure everybody around me was like, what is going on? So once he took me out of the store, I said, okay, well, we got the call and, it's looking like it's leukemia. They want us to go to the hospital. Our other kids were in school, so we had to go pick them up. And then, they noticed something was wrong immediately because,
Picking them up in the middle of the day, so, right.
yeah, and I was sobbing and, I decided I wanted to be honest with them and just tell them how it was and tell them, okay, this is, Tessa is sick and she has cancer and we have to go to the hospital. And it was hard on them because it was Valentine's Day, and they had all their
fun
class party.
right.
Yeah, so they were disappointed, and I think they could see that we were upset. And but my favorite thing is she was 7 at the time. She said, it's Valentine's Day, so Tessa would want us to have fun, so I'm going to have fun today.
Oh.
So that was a huge tender mercy for me to have to leave them, but knowing that they were okay, like it was going to be hard, but they're okay.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is how does Tessa having cancer affect your children and also affect your marriage as well? Because I'm sure it's like really all consuming times.
For sure. At the beginning, especially, it was, everything that we could do to take care of Tessa. She was so sick. And we had a unique work situation where my husband was actually able to stay home that was how we were able to take care of her at home and have one of us going back and forth to the hospital and one of us staying at home with the other kids.
That's perfect. So someone could always be with Tessa at that time. That's cool.
Yeah. It was a big blessing. I know lots of families don't have that, chance.
Right.
So it was a huge blessing for us and for our other kids to have one of us there, at least have some consistency and have one of us there at all times with them.
I'm sure that's hard, even though like, okay, your sibling is going through all this trauma. You're a child, so you still have your own selfish needs and like, they want their mom and dad more than anything. So that's great that someone was able to also like be with your kids. And do they go to the hospital and when Tessa was there for treatment to visit her?
Yes, that was
Great.
their favorite thing to do. They always missed her when she was at the hospital. So yeah, they would always ask, and it was hard with school when they were in school, but during the summer it was a lot easier to go and visit.
So how do you guys manage Tessa's treatment schedule? Because how long do you end up in the hospital during like treatment, and do you stay overnight during those times? Like, what does your kind of schedule with that look like?
So right now we're in long-term maintenance, and that means she gets chemo orally every day,
Okay.
and then we go to the hospital every 3 months right now, and she gets chemo in her port and in her spine, and usually those appointments are just for one day. We're able to go home. It's pretty much an all-day thing, but we're able to just take her in and then go home that evening. But if she does get sick, anytime she gets any kind of fever or any kind of virus, we have to take her into the ER or clinic. And usually we're there for at least a night or two, depending on how severe the illness is. They just have to make sure that she doesn't have any kind of bacterial infection.
Yeah, you don't even think about, along with everything else you guys have, is what if she does get sick or get the common cold or anything like that. Is it much harder for her to like fight those off now that she is like taking her treatment daily, or does that affect her health in any way, like just overall immunity?
So right now, it's definitely her immune system is a lot stronger than it was at the beginning of treatment. Right now, like she's going to preschool and she's able to go out and about more than she was able to before. But definitely, like, especially at the beginning of treatment, basically we take your immune system and do a whole revamp.
Right.
So they take you down to basically nothing.
Wow.
And at that point, like, if anybody sneezed from a mile away, she would get it. You know, it was just so constant that she would catch these things because she had no protection against them.
Right, that's something you don't even think about. So we only have like a few more minutes, and while we were talking, I noticed people asking a bunch of questions. So I'm going to go through and ask you those as quick as I can. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Perfect. So I'm going to scroll to the top as much as I can before I don't want to waste too much time. Let's see. Let's see. That's kind of a common question for the group. Have you met many other families with Down syndrome and leukemia?
Yes, we have. We actually were in the hospital, during our long stays with 2 other families with children with Down syndrome and cancer. So it's been a great community of support, and it's been so nice to have, those other families to talk with and
who understand what you're going through, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Someone asked if she has a heart defect.
So she was born with some small holes in her heart, and she had a heart murmur that they, at the 6-month appointment, he said, okay, you need to go to a cardiologist. And then 2 weeks later, went to the cardiologist, and he said her heart is completely healed. Like it.
Wow. So that's like, oh, mercy.
Yes, it was huge, especially because chemotherapy can be very hard on your heart. So,
oh yeah,
it's a huge blessing to have
one more, right? Okay, so you might have to tell me what this is, but I may have missed it. But did Tessa have transient maybe leukemia as an infant? I'm butchering that, I know.
Oh, you're fine. No, I don't know the exact terminology, but so I think there's a blood test that you can do if your child has Down syndrome when they're a baby that will kind of indicate whether or not they're more likely to develop leukemia. And we never got the test then, so I don't know if she did or not.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even know that is something you can like test for. Interesting.
I didn't know.
Is there any supplements you give her?
So I am not doing any supplements right now. I've asked the oncologist about it, and I don't have enough information to really know.
Right.
But I do know.
And I know it's risky with her already going through so much. You have to be so careful of what she does get, I'm sure.
Yes, and if I was more informed, I would definitely, I know our friend Tara, she gives Indy all sorts of stuff.
All on it, yeah. Her page is really informational. I know she does is it Tuesdays where she used to share like a lot of health tips and stuff. So,
yeah.
Oh, this is a really good question. What are some ways people can support or contribute to helping those families with who have a child with cancer?
Oh, I love that question. There are so many things that you can do, even either directly for or just, donating blood is definitely something that helps. Tessa had so many transfusions, and every time she got a transfusion, I was like so thankful that there was someone willing to donate blood. You can also go to bethematch.org and you can send via bone marrow donor.
Yes, Jordan and I both did that in college. I think it only lasts for 5 years, so we probably need to redo it since it's been, let's see. Oh, it'll be like 5 years this year, actually. So yeah, that's a really cool thing you guys can do. It's really easy. They just swab the inside of your cheek and then send it off, and you're in a database. It's super easy for you, and it's completely free too, as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll finish up with this question. Does Tessa have a fear of medical professionals and hospitals? Has her personality changed?
That's a great idea. That's a great question. So Tessa at the beginning, definitely, it was pretty traumatic, with all the nurses poking. Like, she didn't have her port at the beginning. And then after she got her port, it didn't work for a few days. And their tiny veins are so hard to get into that,
Right.
like, she had an IV on both arms and both legs at one point.
Oh, girl,
And
that is so sad to see.
it was very traumatizing for her and for us.
She could pull it out, so I'm sure they had to like take them down and do all that.
Yes, for sure. So it was scary at first, but now it's amazing. Like, she gets her port access, and it's no big deal for her. Like, she just sits there and lets them do their thing.
I had a post about that. It was not that long ago, right? That she just like kind of patiently. That's amazing, honestly, and such a blessing, I'm sure, considering how it used to be with having 4 different IVs and.
Yes, for sure. She's gotten so good with that.
When she gets there for like her treatment days, what's going to happen? Does she kind of realize there's a routine?
I think she does. I think she's done it so many times, and she knows a lot of the nurses, and when we go and she gets her temperature taken and vitals taken,
like star of the hospital.
she just loves people, and so she goes around giving everybody knuckles, and she loves it, and they love her. It's really fun too.
I'm sure that like they all look forward to the days that she's there. She's so sweet.
Oh, thanks. You're nice. She's so fun.
I had some other questions, but we're gonna close out here. It's past 10. Thank you so much for sharing all this. I know that we asked some really personal questions, but we're really grateful, especially for so many people that follow this page have children with Down syndrome, and they're more likely to, as you 20 to 30%, is that what you said, more likely to be diagnosed with leukemia?
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 times. Yeah.
Wow, times. So yeah, you shared some great information. It is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it. And someone said your openness and honesty. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.